Hello, and thanks for joining us on Encore. Coming up in today's film show,
This peaceful island has been home
we sail to
our
the southern
family.
seas with Disney's new
Our
Polynesian
house
heroine,
day
Moana.
is coming.
The matriarch at the centre of systemic corruption in the Philippines, Brillante Mendoza's Rosa hits French screens after plaudits at the Cannes Film Festival. And we check out a young Afghan director's pastoral tale, Wolf and Sheep. And Shahrbanoo Sadat tells France 24 about how she made it. Well, I'm joined by our film critic, Ben Croll. Hi, Ben.
Hey.
Now, we're starting with a film that's very welcome as the days are getting colder and shorter here in Europe. It's an injection of sun and sea and song. This film is, of course, Disney's animated Moana. This is already a big hit in the US, and I'm sure it's set to have the same success here in France. What can we expect?
Well, stop me if this sounds familiar. Expect cute animal sidekicks, catchy tunes, beautifully rendered landscapes and vistas. Expect a gag a minute. Expect thrilling action sequences, and expect a story about family and personal empowerment. Expect Disney's big end-of-the-year release.
Generations.
Moana is Disney's big end-of-the-year release. It hits all those notes you expect Disney's big end-of-the-year release to hit. This film comes from the directors of Aladdin and The Little Mermaid, and it once again tells the story of a headstrong young princess who dreams of something more. In this case, that princess is Moana, a Polynesian princess who is being groomed to lead her island-bound tribe. But she dreams of exploring the water, taking to the open seas. Her father doesn't really allow that.
Sounds familiar.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Then tragedy hits. Her island is, plagued by famine. She has to take to the water to save her tribe. Let's take a look.
Maui, shapeshifter, demigod of the wind and sea. I am Moana.
Hero of men.
What?
It's actually Maui, shapeshifter, demigod of the wind and sea, hero of men. I interrupted from the top. Hero of men. Go.
I am.
Sorry. And women. Men and women. Both. All. Not a guy-girl thing. Maui is the hero to all. You're doing great.
Well, it's good to see a feisty princess for once in a Disney film. Is this a feminist take?
I would say so. Like I said before, it hits a lot of those same notes, but it also updates them. And it does offer something that really not too many of the, previous Disney films does. It offers a strong female lead with no love interest. She doesn't have to define herself in a man's eyes. She doesn't have to justify her actions, for a stern father figure. He exists, but he's not really that important. It's just about her voyage, her discovery, and, her own strength. As we saw in that clip, her main foil is Maui, who's voiced by The Rock, and he's terrific. But there's no love interest between them. There's no spark. There's a fierce little antagonistic relationship. It's very funny. It's very light, and it allows the lead female to take the stage.
Now let's just clear something up. It's being released here as Viana, and in the US it's going under the name of Moana. Why this difference?
For a very simple reason. Moana was the name of an Italian porn film actress. She starred in a very successful string of adult films in the 80s and 90s, and then ran for mayor of Rome, actually. And I think Disney just wanted to make it clear that this is not her story. This is a story for the family, fun for the whole family, and not just for the adults. So they made the right choice, and they changed the name for all of Europe, actually.
Okay. Now we're moving to another film about a family, but a very different tone this time. Brillante Mendoza's award-winning Rosa. It's the story of systemic corruption in the Philippines, and it went down very, very well with the critics at Cannes, I believe.
Yes, absolutely, and this is about as far from that Disney fantasia as you can get. It's something like a neorealist film. It's a story about the working poor, people that get caught up and consumed by the machinery of society. This is a story of a family of shop owners in Manila who are having trouble making ends meet, and so they resort to selling drugs. Well, then the police come, snatch the mother away, lock her up, and ask for an exorbitant bail. Problem is that not only can the family not pay the bail that the police ask for, but as the police get drunker and drunker as the night goes on, the bail goes up and up and up, making the husband and the 3 kids resort to debasing themselves, sometimes literally prostituting themselves to pay these corrupt police. let's take a look.
Sabu-sabu na kayo, ha? Ayusin natin yan. Salamat. Ayusin niyo yan. Magpabay. Salamat, sir.
Gusto namin lumabas eh. Ayaw kami palabas yung hindi kami sa kwenta.
Ma, saan lang natin yung bahay?
Hindi. Hindi natin sasangla. Wala tayong titiran.
Ma, saan naman
Hindi
tayo
tayo
kukuha ng 50,000?
Oo nga, ma.
Hindi tayo titira sa bangketa. Gagawan tayo ng paraan. Ganito. Jackson, punta kami sa Waldo. Sabi mo nangangailangan ako. Alam na niya yun, magpapahiram yun.
And the lead actress there, the protagonist, Jaclyn Jose, actually won Best Actress at Cannes this year. I believe that was something of a shock.
Oh yeah, shock doesn't even do it service. But at the same time, 2016 was the year of the shock election, so it wasn't. It fit right well with everything else that was happening this year. It was a shock because it was so strong. The selection of lead female performances in Cannes this year, of Isabelle Huppert and Ruth Negga and Sonia Braga. There was a very strong crop. That was one reason it was a shock. It was also a shock because Jaclyn Jose really isn't the lead of this film. She actually takes something of a backseat role. She spends most of the movie locked up while her children are out, trying to get money for her, trying to get her bail. It was so surprising that at the press conference after they announced the awards, the jury said, no, I know you don't think that she's the lead actress, but we think that she's the lead actress. So, it was a bit of a surprise.
Interesting. Now, we have a second Cannes winner coming up this week. Director Shahrbanoo Sadat won the top prize in the Director's Fortnight Sidebar at Cannes this year for a film called Wolf and Sheep. Now, can you explain, beyond the title, what this film is about?
Well, the title definitely tells you something. It's a movie about shepherds. The title can be taken quite literally. It's about shepherds in the hinterlands of Afghanistan. It's told through the perspective of many children in a village. There's not much of a story. It's a lot of scenes and impressionistic moments and, beautiful shots of herding cattle and herding sheep among mountaintops. The film is mostly improvised in a way. There's mostly non-professional actors, people sort of playing versions of themselves, but it's not a documentary. There's a strong, fantastic fantasy element that runs through it. These kids, they tell stories about the woods, about wolves, about fairies, and these fairies and the wolves, they come through the film. They are a part of it.
Okay, well, let's take a look at that because Shahrbanoo recently stopped by France 24 to talk about her award-winning film Wolf and Sheep. Let's hear from her.
I came from Afghanistan. We don't have national fund in Afghanistan. We don't have cinema industry. So I came from a country that I couldn't really see any future for my career, for my work. I started casting when I finished my final draft of the script. The way that I worked with them, because they were mostly uneducated, they couldn't read and write. So I didn't use the script not for myself and not for my cast. But it was very funny because when the film was finished, like 85% of the dialogues, it was the same as I wrote the script. Quite simple work actually, because it's so when you live in I lived in that village. I knew that village very much. I lived there for 7 years. I knew the people, and most of the cast, they were my relatives.
As you can see, the landscape is really front and center in this film. It is set in Afghanistan, but it was shot in Tajikistan, I believe. But it is still an Afghani production, and it has the distinction of being the first Afghani production directed by a woman. It also has the distinction of it was developed at the Cannes Ciné Fondation. She was the youngest director to ever have her film accepted at the Ciné Fondation. Her goal was to tell a story of Afghanistan that is pastoral, simple, peaceful, different from the war-torn stories we've heard in the news for 15 years already.
That's certainly a fresh perspective on the country. Now, finally, our French pick this week is from director Emmanuel Berco. It's called 150 milligrams, and this is her account of a pharmaceutical scandal here in France that happened in 2011 and what was known as the Mediator scandal. Ben, what was this scandal about?
Well, Mediator was a diabetes drug that, it turned out, was killing people. And a doctor in the town of Brest basically uncovered this case, fought to have the drug recalled, and then fought to hold the pharmaceutical company accountable. That was the scandal, and that is the film. 150 milligrams really is a conventional investigative docudrama. The film was actually being marketed in French as The French Erin Brockovich. And you'll see that on the publicity materials, but it's not wrong. That is sort of what the film is. It's not any better, not any worse than many of the other ripped from the headlines docudramas that it tries to emulate. But there is one shining light, and that is star Cissé Babette Knudsen.
And she's the main actress, but she's not French. She made her career in Denmark, I believe.
Yes, she made her career in Denmark. She starred in the Danish TV show Borgen. That was a huge hit.
Yeah.
She recently won a César for the French film Courted, and she's starring on the HBO series Westworld. It's very rare to see an actress, somebody well over 45 as well, who is making films in Hollywood, making television shows in Hollywood, making films in France, winning César in France, and about as big a star as Denmark has produced. So it just goes to show you, if you're talented, beautiful, and trilingual, the sky's the limit.
Okay, thanks for joining us this week, Ben. We'll leave you with a clip of 150 milligrams. Remember, you can get more news on our website, and we're also on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.
Moi, je vous pose la question à laquelle votre livre répond jamais. Combien de morts? T'es arrivé chez toi, là? Non! Bah vas-y, gare-toi, allume ta radio et attends 20 heures.
Sport parlementaire a souligné l'obstination d'un praticien hospitalier, le docteur Trachon, et des équipes du CHU de Brest pour que la nocivité du Mediator soit enfin reconnue. Une affaire qui